Welcome everybody. This is our first REXio webinar that we call The Great Change. The Great Change because we are thinking, imagining a big change that we would do in order to adapt to the future. And this is our first out of 4 90 minutes webinars that we'll do during the next weeks. Today, we have speakers and attendees from different time zones. And I would say good morning to Mike, because Mike is 7 a.m. in the morning. Good night to Sean from Singapore. Mike is from Los Angeles, Sean from Singapore. In Singapore is 10 p.m. And so the different time zone. And then Barry from Ireland and Fahad from Saudi Arabia. I'll introduce you the webinar now. I share you the agenda, today's agenda. Here we are. Oh, so we have divided this webinar in 5 phases. First, I'll explain the purpose of this Great Change webinar. Then in the second round, I'll introduce myself and the speakers. Then in the third part will be the speaker's turn to share with you what measures they are taking for the shutdown. In the fourth round, the speaker will share their ideas for the reopening. We have speakers from different countries that are in different stages of this complex challenge. So we have different information, different idea, different best practice. The fifth phase is dedicated to question and answer. During the entire webinar, you can write and submit a question addressed to all the panelists or to a specific one. Because there may not be enough time to answer a question, we have Gabriella here with us from the REX office that will select the question for the speakers. You can also write to Andrea, Veronica, or Zorica for the REX office for any kind of technical assistance or question regarding REX during the webinar. So now, let's go and let's start with the purpose of this Great Change series of webinar. We are now in the middle of a unique storm that is serious and unprecedented in the history of humanity. A storm that has health, financial, and psychological consequences for the entire planet. Here in Italy, it has been 1 month that pretty much all activities are closed. You all see in the news what's happening in Italy. We have been one of the first in the world to have this kind of huge problem. But at this stage, we cannot say for sure when, but we know that it will finish. And we know for sure that we cannot have much or any control on the event, but we can choose our reaction to this event. This waiting time can be very precious to us in order to plan how to transform this global challenge into a great opportunity, a great change. A great opportunity for all operators, suppliers, organizations, and experts of the fitness industry to collaborate, to make a great change on how we think and behave, giving the right importance to the concept that prevention is better than cure. Prevention is better than cure. This is our mantra for all the fitness industry. This is a great change in mindset of 8.7 billion people to respect, protect, and enhance their bodies and their planet. This is our goal, our dream, to help the industry and the world to really do something good for the planet and for the humanity. And I think that the fitness industry is it's the perfect industry because it is mainly a preventative medicine and healthy environment there is in the fitness industry. The fitness industry can be the first in line to do a lot more than other industries. So operators, suppliers, and associations united for a fitter body, healthier planet for a happier life. This is our purpose of the Great Change webinar. to do something for the humanity and the planet. It seems too big, but we think that we can really do a difference in the world. And this is the first seminar to try to do something for the planet. And so now let's go to the introduction. I'd like to start to introduce myself. I'm Fausto di Giulio. I'm from Italy, in Abruzzo, in the center of Italy. And I usually introduce myself with two dates mainly. The first one is 1990, when I opened my fitness club that's called Medical Sport. And this year we celebrate the 38th anniversary. Then the second date is the 2010, when Will Phillips here, with the panelists, asked me to launch REX in Europe and Middle East as a REX EMEA CEO. And so far, this year we celebrated the 10th anniversary. So a lot of celebration here, not only the virus. And now it's my pleasure to introduce you the panelists. Let's start with our founder, Will Phillips. Will, can you please introduce yourself?
I think for my whole life, I've been hoping I could get better. And that always meant that I had to figure out how to change. And because it's always been hard for me to change myself, I decided I should earn my living by trying to change other people. And I became a management consultant and spent 40 years flying all over the world, helping companies make changes. And then about, I guess it's close to 30 years now, I decided I wanted to work in this industry for two reasons. One, it was a noble industry doing good. And secondly, most of the people in this industry owned their own business and stayed with it their whole life. So about 30 years ago, I began the idea of a roundtable, and it's a great pleasure to be sitting here with Joe, who was there at that first meeting. And here we are, still trying to make things better. Never stops. We're not perfect, but we are getting better. Thank you.
Sean.
Is that to me? I'm sorry.
Sean Tan from Singapore.
Thanks, Fausto. From Will being the founder, then it's to me, probably the newest member of REX. I just attended my first REX meeting a few weeks ago, and it's been a wonderful experience so far. I'm Sean Tan. I'm the director of the True Group. I'm from Singapore, and we operate clubs, big box clubs in Singapore and Taiwan. We have two brands, True Fitness and TFX. We have 10 clubs in Singapore, 14 in Taiwan. And up to last year, we had 2 clubs in China. We've since sold them. We have total about 100,000 members in the 2 countries. And as for the current situation with the COVID-19 pandemic, we have not shut down in either Singapore or Taiwan. We've never been shut down there. But increasingly in Singapore, we're facing more stringent measures imposed by the government. So social distancing measures, we can go into that a little bit later, but they're restricting the number of people that we can have in our clubs and in our classes. In Taiwan, there are no such restrictions at the moment. I still have some sight into what's happening in China. As probably everybody knows, they were shut down, and this happened overnight for them. They were the first to be hit. And right now, they're on the road to recovery, and they're slowly opening. And the situation there is a little bit different from Singapore and Taiwan. That's about it for me as by way of introduction.
Okay, thank you. Joe Cirulli.
Yeah, first of all, Fausto, I just want to thank you for everything that you're doing to help so many people. And I had the fortune of working with Fausto as he was developing the different roundtables in Europe. It was a great experience, great honor to meet so many super people. As far as the United States, as far as Florida, all the health clubs were shut down a week ago Friday. And as we go through the different things that we did, I look forward to sharing that with you. I have 3 fitness centers in Gainesville. I have 2 orthopedic rehabilitation centers in Gainesville, and I have 2 boutique studios in the Tampa Bay area. So with the health clubs, we have 28,000 members. So we have a pretty active membership here in Gainesville, and we're constantly meeting, talking with the entire leadership team, with the office to make sure we have all the plans in place. First of all, to take care of the staff. Second of all, to address any issues of the members. And the third thing is all the things we'll be doing once we're set to reopen again. Thanks.
Thank you. Mike Alpert.
Hi, my name is Mike Alpert. I work at the Claremont Club in Claremont, California. It's a single club, very large club on 19 acres. We employ 260 staff, and we service a little over 10,000 members. California, our governor in our state, required all clubs to shut down about 2 weeks ago. We shut down actually 2 days before that mandate was put in place. So we've been shut down about 15, 16 days now. Like Joe, my main focus has been constant communication with our members and staff, but primarily to keep all 260 staff employed. And through this crisis, we're committed to do that. That includes all full-time, part-time, and all commission staff. And we are paying our commission people what they were averaging in commission from January 1st through March 15th while we're shut down.
Very good. Okay. Barry, thank you very much, Mike. Barry.
Thanks, Fausto. It's a pleasure to be here with all these industry legends who I've looked up to for so many years. And I've been involved with Rex for 10 years now, since Fausto twisted my arm many years ago in San Diego. I've been in the industry over 25 years, the last 15 years of which I've been running my own clubs. We have 3 premium clubs in the centre of Dublin, the capital of Ireland. And I'm also a co-founder and shareholder in a medical rehabilitation centre, which is also based in Dublin. So like everybody, Ireland's going through rapid changes at the moment, and I'll share where we are, some of our tactics and some of our strategies with you as we go through the meeting.
Okay, thank you, Barry. Let's go to Fahad. One moment, Fahad, we cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, now yes.
Yeah. Okay, good day, everyone. It's a pleasure to be around this great panel and also everyone attending. My name is Fahad Alhagbani. I'm from Saudi Arabia. I've been involved in the fitness industry for the last 20 years. Together with my brothers, we have built more than 180 clubs in Saudi in the last 20 years. And the latest company that we built, we took it to the IPO about a year and a half ago with a valuation of 700 million euros and 150 clubs. The most number of our clubs, the majority was built up clubs from the ground up. And after we did the IPO, we have decided to move on and create the clubs of the future, what we call them the smart fitness clubs. It will be one of the most technology connected and dependent clubs in the world. And also, we decided instead of leasing the lands and building the clubs, we decided in the new ventures to buy the lands. And by this, we can create security for us and for the second generation of the family because of the real estate value. We have always dreamt to create great things, and I've been a member with Rex now for 3 years, and really Rex changed my life and changed my business and my thinking and my vision for the future. On the other hand, in a personal level, I have partnered with a friend of mine called Nathan Kloot from Canada to sign with the best boutique studio in the world, One Rebel, to take them to the Middle East. So now we have a 15 years contract with One Rebel to open in 8 countries in the Middle East. A bit of background on the situation in Saudi Arabia. The situation is under control. I'm proud of our government that they took a lot of proactive, aggressive measures like 5-6 weeks ago, before even this pandemic took serious shape in Saudi. And today we have only 1,200 cases in a 30 million population. So thanks God the situation is under control, and we pray for the other countries to pass this difficult time. Today we have 24 locations between clubs and boutique studios. All of the 24 are under construction, and we're planning to open them in the next couple of years. So this is my part of the interview.
Thank you very much, Fahad. Okay, let's go back and let's start talking about tactics. And let's go back to Sean Tan, Singapore. Okay, could you say something? What are you doing right now in Singapore and Taiwan and China?
Sure. Let's start. I think.
Sean, sorry, you have 3 minutes. 3 minutes each. So I'll inform you when the time is expiring. Okay.
Thanks, Fausto. Let's start with Taiwan. Taiwan was, I think, fairly insulated from the virus. They had measures that they put in place, and they hadn't had a lot of infections and a lot of spread. As a result, I think they controlled the situation very well. So our clubs there, the 14 clubs that we had in Taiwan, we never really had to shut. What we did was we put in a lot of measures on cleaning and sanitization, and we educated the members to come in, and we pretty much operated as usual from then until now. Not much change. The biggest amount of change that we have seen, China excluded, was in Singapore. We have been suffering under the virus for just over 2 months after the Chinese New Year holiday. We've never been in full lockdown, and for the most part, we've operated as per normal with additional measures for cleaning and sanitization. However, last week saw the government launch new additional measures for social distancing and for precautions to be taken. And this was as a result of a spike of infections in Singapore. We're up to about 800 at the moment. And the spike came from, I think, returning Singaporeans and residents, a lot from overseas, from the US, from Europe, from Australia, who came back. And with that spike of infections, I think the government was forced to take on measures. So we've had the 1 meter distancing rule, but insofar as our clubs are concerned, where studios, we've had a 10-person maximum per studio, regardless of the size of your studio. And per gym floor, we the total area of our gym floor, you divide it by 16 square meters per person, and that fits in the maximum number of people that can be in your gym at any one point in time. So we've had to come up with a lot of strategies on how to manage all of this. And we're currently managing very well. As a result of these measures, we've had a number of operators decide that they're going to shut down operations temporarily. Most are going to be shut until the 30th of April. That's in about a month's time. We I think, decided to take the more difficult option because we see it as part of our mission to remain open, to serve Singaporeans, and to ensure that they don't break their routines. They still continue working out because we believe that one of the best forms of fighting off the virus is to boost your immunity by working out and keeping to a healthy lifestyle. But this is difficult also because we've had to cut the number of classes. And because we are not in full lockdown and the government hasn't ordered full lockdown, we're not getting full help from the landlords. We're still being charged rental. But under pressure, I think the landlords have come around, and they are giving us some rental rebates. So the rental rebates are ranging from about 50% for about 2 months. We're getting some relief from the government in terms of property tax. They've just recently announced that they're going to give 100% rebate to the property owners, and they're encouraged to then pass these on in full to us. Other than that, we're receiving some help by way of salaries. About 25% assistance is given for salaries up to Singapore dollars 4,600. But this only applies to Singaporeans, does not apply to foreigners who are working here. And we have quite a number of Malaysians and Filipinos who are employed by us. So we can't get any money or financial assistance for the government for them. So it is increasingly difficult to operate, but we will continue to try to do so as far as possible. What is good is that whilst we remain open, the time that we're open allows us to also prepare for the time where we may have to shut down. We still don't know if there will be a full lockdown. I think this is always on the radar. We're hoping it will not happen, but we're planning for it just in case it does. How are we planning for it? So we're making provisions to have a lot of our classes streamed live, or videos and recordings of classes are being screened out and kept in our libraries as well. We have spoken to a number of our partners. Les Mills is one of them. And we're very happy to say that Les Mills has recently informed us that 4 of their programs are going to be made available for screening via the clubs to our members free of charge. So that will be the popular programs like Body Combat. I think we've got Zumba, we've got Body Balance, and perhaps one other program. I think it's Grit. So the details will come out, but if that happens, I think, and it will soon, that will be a fantastic piece of news for our members, because those are very popular programs. So we're continuing to think of ways and means to keep our members engaged should we go into lockdown. If we don't, then we'll operate as we are now, and that would be fantastic. And we also are planning for a situation where we reopen again. One of the things that I said, and this is one of the things that I spoke to one of our equipment providers, was we are advising our members, if they can, to come to the gym whilst we remain open, come with full-fingered gloves, pretty much like what I have on now. One of the things that you will see that doctors are advising is keep your fingers and hands away from your face, from your eyes, from your nose and your mouth. And which is why a lot of club operators are advised to make sure the equipment is continually cleaned and sanitized. But we find that if you have a glove on and you do your workouts with them and they're always touching the weights or the floor or everything else, naturally, this will be a barrier. You will not want to touch your face with these gloves on. So we're trying to get stocks of these available to our members to sell them and give them out as well. And we're encouraging all our friends and our partners, if you manage to get hold of them, please do. You'll find that your members will, I think, warmly welcome them.
Very good. Thank you for the idea. Let's go to Joe Cirulli. What are you doing in this period?
Well, first of all, the first thing we did was prepare for the shutdown, because we knew that was coming. So everything as far as the pools and all that, I want to be sure that as we shut down, we had a program in place to be able to take care of them. The second thing we did after we shut down was we sent emails to every single member. We posted on Facebook, social medias, and our website to give members an idea of what was happening and the different options that they had with their membership. The next thing we looked at was how many people would be allowed to be working in the facilities once we shut down. And we're able to have 10 people at any one time, and they're just cleaning and cleaning and cleaning. We'll be ready for the hospital to do surgery in our centers if they need another place. That's how clean everybody has been making the facilities. On the outside of the building, there were no guidelines or no rules restricting us from working out in the parking lot and mulching and cutting back trees. So I have a whole team of people out there that have been working on doing that. They're maintaining the social distancing and all, but we have all those things happening because everybody just can't sit around if they don't have to sit around. A lot of people like to keep working, so we made it a very safe environment. The next thing was making sure we had a complete office staff because we were notifying the members. They could contact us by email, by phone call. And so I have 5 people in my office that are answering the phones at all times, responding to emails at all times, so that everybody is taken care of and letting them know of all the different options. If somebody gets billed and they say, why did you bill me? You know, now that you're closed, because that's going to happen, we let them know the different options they have. You wouldn't believe how many members say, just keep billing me. I want to make sure you can take care of your staff. If they're doing that, obviously we're extending everybody's membership. If somebody says, look, I want to freeze my time and my dues, we're doing that. If we did bill somebody, we'll tell them, if you would like, we can refund that to you also. And being a local company, we can do all those things and take care of all those things right here. At the same time, I do meet with my leadership team, because not only do we have to plan everything for the reopening, but we have to plan the marketing for the reopening, the staffing for the reopening, and we're paying everybody their full salaries all the way through this. I've got right about 500 employees. The government, I know, but that'll mainly be a reimbursement over time. So I'm meeting with my CFO regularly to talk about cash flow and what we have now, what we'll have coming in, and the things that we can do to protect the cash flow, you know, as we move forward. So those are the major things that that we're working on. And just another side note, I mean, obviously, the world has been through many, many major things. I mean, when you think about making it through World War II, getting through terrorism, depressions, recessions, and everything else. We've always made it through those things, and we'll make it through this also. I believe that the most important thing is that everybody on this call, I know, is a leader in the organization. And the most important thing is we're doing all the things we can do to stay healthy, and not only in body, but also in mind, and filling our mind full of the positive thing that you have to have there, understanding reality, but understand everybody is looking to us, and we have to be strong through this. And that's the most important thing right now to me and to all the different leaders in the organization. And one last thing, another thing that we're doing is we're calling all the employees to make sure they're doing okay. I started calling them all last night. I have a whole list. Every leader has a list. And I know they appreciate the fact that we're following up with them and not just kind of forgetting about them during this challenging time.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you very much. Let's go to Mike. Mike.
Oh, hi. I think we closed 2 days before it was mandated. So during that 2 days and prior to that, we did a major cleaning of the entire facility and disinfecting. And that was the first thing we did. I think one of the key things to do during this time is to be transparent and be in constant communication with your staff and your members. There's a lot of angst and a lot of uncertainty with people, and they need to know that not only you care about them and you're committed to them, but that they're up to date on the things that you know, what's happening in the industry, in the world, and in your country. I think this is a great example, and I'm very proud of the United States and what we are doing. When you bring the private and the public sectors together to work together, miracles can happen. The speed at which things are happening right now with the development of drugs and vaccines and tests and all the things that are happening at lightning speed just shows what can happen. And I think the country, our country, has come out with the largest stimulus package in the history of the country to help us get through this and get through it financially. We've been fortunate that our bank has agreed to defer our loan payments for 90 days till July 16th. That will shore up quite a bit of cash flow for us. We are committed 100% to paying everybody through this. The last thing that I want to do is to put anybody at all on the unemployment line. So that's not going to happen at our club. I feel that when we open, we're going to make sure we have enough cash and reserves to open. I don't think when we open that it's going to be just a rush to the clubs. I think we're going to open slowly, working with my management team. My advice and their support is that we're going to be flat for probably 4 months, meaning there's going to be no gain in membership at all. I think the people that have stayed with us and stay with us through this time will be there. They'll stay, but I see no growth, net growth in membership during a 90 to 120 day period. It became very evident to me at the onset that in order to survive this as a company and to come out of it financially stable and healthy, we were going to have to appeal to the heart and soul of our members. And so we went back to those members and, like Joe, gave them options. We did not give them an option to freeze their membership because we felt if we did that, the majority would take that option and there would be absolutely no cash coming in. So we gave them an option to cancel their membership if they wanted to do that. But we gave them the option to stay on and pay their dues and allow us to continue to draft those dues while we were closed. And my comments to them was I felt that on a best case scenario, we would be open between May and June 1st. So if they would allow us to draft their dues during that time, when we reopen, that we would pay those dues that we drafted while we were closed back to them 100%, vis-a-vis a 30% discount on their current dues over a 10 to 12 month period. And the response we've had from that has been really phenomenal. When we ran the numbers, when my CFO and I ran the numbers to see if we could make that work, we projected a 20% cancellation. For us, that would mean about 740 billable units would cancel and say, I don't want to continue to pay dues. Through yesterday, we've had 5% cancel. So the mass majority have stayed with us. They consider it their second home, and they're continuing to support us during this challenging time. So that's been our game plan for now, and I'll turn it back over to you, Fausto.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Barry, what's the situation? What are you doing in Ireland?
We've been mandated now for just over a week to have to close all essential business, non-essential businesses. We ourselves have been closed since the 15th of March. We took that decision because it was becoming increasingly more and more difficult to maintain the social distancing as prescribed by the health officials. And we also thought from a social point of view, there was a lot of social media calling out gyms that were open or facilities that were open where they felt that it was a threat to the community. So we closed on the 15th of March, which was a Sunday, and we had worked on the Saturday and the Sunday, basically strategizing with our management teams how we were going to handle the closure, how we were going to communicate it to our staff and to our members. So we effectively broke the strategy up into 4 sections. One was the business strategy, one was the property or building strategy, then we have a staffing strategy and a member strategy. So in no particular order, as a business point of view, we identified that how we handle this crisis will affect reputation for years. So we were very conscious that across all our decision making, that we were making a decision for the short term and also the long term of this area. One of the areas I learned, I suppose, from the crash in 2009 was that cash is our oxygen. So we had some cash in the bank, and we needed to maintain that cash as long as we possibly could, so we could survive this unknown period of time. So without this oxygen in our business, we were going to get into a lot of trouble. So immediately from a business point of view, we looked at how we could reduce our expenditure. So we wanted to reduce our expenditure by about 85–90%. The government brought in some measures which really helped us. So all employees, as long as we retained our employees, the government would give us 70% towards our employees' salaries. So every employee, therefore, was on at least 70% of their salary. We were then allowed to top up if we wished on those salaries. So that was a huge help to us. We wrote to all our landlords, we wrote to the local city council, we wrote to the banks, we wrote to all our utility providers, we wrote to all our suppliers, and we asked them what they could do for us. And the response has been really good. Our high-end costs have all pretty much been put on hold for 3 months. So that allows us to keep that cash, that oxygen in the business that will allow us to survive. With our staff, we've been constant communicating with our staff on what our thought process is in this. Only on Friday we were told that our employees weren't allowed to come to work anymore, so we only have our management team and our maintenance team now checking on the buildings every day. As part of the building strategy, we have a checklist for what we need to do in the building every day. 2 of our properties have pools, so the pools need to be checked every day, showers run, toilets run, etc. And from a security point of view, we also have a responsibility to our landlords to ensure that the buildings are kept in good repair. From our members' point of view, part of our strategy, before we even wrote to our members, we decided we'd freeze everybody's membership. This is a little bit different to Joe and Mike. We decided that if we weren't able to provide the service, that we wouldn't charge any money. So our last dues run, our membership run, was on the 2nd of March. We won't be taking in any more income now until we're able to reopen the building, which is really perceived as a risky strategy for some. We felt we had enough cash flow in place for at least 6-month period. We also, what type of service can we actually offer our members during this period? And is it fair for us to charge them? So with all the members being on cancellation, we can just reactivate their membership when we're able to open. Plus we've had a really, really low, less than 1% of people have cancelled. So we still have everybody still engaged, because we felt it's much harder to get back a cancelled member than it is to get back a temporary suspended member. So we can just re-engage with our members straight away. We also felt that the option of being able to charge for some online classes or some online training, that there was some available free of charge on the web already, that all we would be doing is allowing our members to compete with other competitors or other options. So we wanted to keep them really engaged with what we were doing. What we decided to do just towards the end of March was we teamed up with a national suicide charity. We wrote to all our members and we told them, because we did have members write to us and say they would still like to pay us some money. And we said, well, we'd like you to make a donation, either a full month sub or a half month sub or a quarter month sub, towards the national suicide charity, as opposed to sending the money towards ourselves. So we've had a really, really positive reaction to this, because a lot of the charity organizations have lost all their opportunities for fundraisers. So for their national runs or their national get-togethers have all been cancelled. And we felt that a lot of our communication with our members was, look after your mental health, be careful of your mental health, make sure you're exercising, etc. So we felt that the National Suicide Charity was a really nice fit for us, and that if people wanted to make a donation, then they could do that towards them as opposed to ourselves. We brought in lots of other support from members, trying to keep in constant contact with emails, some nutritional advice, home cooking advice, mental health awareness, some yoga. We're starting the yoga today. And also we called all the members over the age of 55, just in case they were living at home or in case they weren't PC friendly, technology friendly, just to give them some options as well. So so far it's worked quite well for us. I suppose the big unknown for all of us is how long this is going to last, and that's going to be really the I suppose the end result of whether we can actually make through all this. Back to you, Fausto.
Thank you very much, Barry. Thank you. Fahad, what are you doing in Saudi Arabia?
Yes, sir. Actually, the clubs were mandated and forced to shut down 4 weeks ago by the government. And the government also asked all the fitness clubs in Saudi to be very flexible with their members in terms of freezing options and freezing periods as well. But the structure in Saudi for memberships is unique and different maybe from other parts in the Western world, where we don't do the normal monthly based direct debit kind of program. We have cash in advance 3, 6, or 12 months. And I think this type of memberships makes it easier to deal with this situation, because members can freeze as long as they want, and they can come back to consume whatever left in their membership. From the employees' perspective, I agree with the most of the panelists that we shouldn't let employees go. We should keep paying them. They have worked hard with the companies for years, and we should stick and be together in good and bad times as well. And the companies here in Saudi are likely to keep their employees because it's not easy to bring this type of professional calibers to the clubs. And it really depends also of the size of the operator. If you're one club or you have 10 clubs or a network of 50 clubs, it will differentiate the difficulty of bringing back the employees after you reopen or doing the recruiting process all over again. I would say to keep your employees engaged during this period, whether it's virtual training and upscaling your workforce. Also, the government regulations in Saudi here, it's very tough, and they don't allow you to lay off employees that easy unless you have like very legitimate reasons. So this is about the employees. And for us during this crisis, I always advise my team and also within myself to utilize the time and to think about some strategic ideas and utilize the time in good things as well. From the club's perspective, I think this is the best maintenance window we could have. So utilizing this window to revamp the clubs, whether it's a minor renovation or it's a major renovation, I think it's important also to step back and look at the current operations and how to improve it. And maybe also one of the advices is to make time to think about not reopening some of the underperforming clubs. Some clubs that you're not happy about their performance, they're underperforming or they're losing money. I think this, against our will shutdown, gives us some time to think about not reopening some of those clubs, because it's a different situation when you have a running club, valid members, and then you shut down the clubs and the members then will be upset about that. In terms of budget and finance, you know, we all have budgets approved by December or January maximum every year. But now it's the time to create your forecast. And I think the forecast should be not for the full year, because nobody can predict what's the future. We should develop forecasts on 3-month or quarterly basis and take it from there. So what we're doing right now is we're reshuffling the numbers and doing the forecast for the next month and for the next 3 months, sorry, and then in quarter 3 another forecast, and quarter 4 another forecast as well. And we always build, and I'm sure most of the panelists here, they always build very conservative budgets and forecasts, but my advice is like, you have to double the worst case scenario because we don't know what's the future gonna hold for us. We keep, I also advise to keep the members busy with online training. Our communication with members during this time should be different. The language and the tone of voice should be different, because we're not communicating based on marketing and sales concepts like we did in the past. Now it's totally different communication about mental health, about keeping active, and trying to support the overall cause and the government direction also in this, to stay home, stay safe, and stay active. To summarize my point, I want to talk about something that I've been thinking a lot about since coronavirus started, that we are in this industry, and as Mr. Will said, whoever founded this business also continued in it. We didn't have like a serious trouble in the world that forced us to shut down before. But today, since we have the coronavirus, we have to think about the crisis management plan. and we should have this plan in place, also embedded into our employees' contracts, operation manuals, into our policies and procedures. So next time we have a similar or different pandemic, God forbid, we will be ready to execute those plans. I'll give one example of one famous grocery chain in the States called HAEB. And this chain, they had a pandemic plan in place, and they used this plan in the past to go through different disasters like the Harvey hurricane. And the previous plan helped them with coronavirus now to execute the emergency situation very quick and to be ahead of everybody else. And they should be example for everyone in the US and around the world, and every industry, whether it's in the retail industry or the fitness industry. They even have a position in their management team, which is the Director of Emergency Preparedness. And we can learn a lot, as you always, Fausto, say, in Rex, we can always learn from other industries and bring it back to our industry. So the crisis management plan, I think, is an essential component in our future planning. Thank you.
Thank you, Fahad. Now let's go to Will. Will, in your lifetime, you have experienced a lot of crises in different industries. What's your take on this situation? Could you say?
Sounds like everybody is on track. And I would say that what Fahad just said is very critical for all of our thinking. And it's not just being prepared for a crisis, it's being prepared for things that will have an impact in the long term that don't create pain in the short term. So learning how to have a long-term and a short-term agenda is critical, and preparing for a crisis is one way to do this. I see that Fausto is showing kind of the journey of moving through a crisis, but I would prefer to think of it as a transition. And that in the early part of the transition, for the caterpillar to survive, it has to conserve its resources and retreat a little bit. But when it retreats, it knows how to sacrifice the less important things and to save the core. As an expedition high altitude mountaineer, we learned this, that when you get up high in the mountains above 3 or 4 or 7,000 meters, and it's extremely cold, your body will almost automatically sacrifice your toes and your feet and let them freeze. And what it does is that it keeps the blood from going down to your feet and getting cooled, because that cool blood would come back and kill your heart. So it sacrifices the feet to save the heart. And that's exactly what I'm hearing when I hear people like Joe talking about calling every member, because you're saving the heart. So it's really critical during this point to react quickly, to cut back severely the things that you don't need and that you can live without and that won't harm the business in the long run, and then to care for the heart. And that means being in touch with regularly with your members and with your staff, and expressing your compassion, and also finding out who needs help. So I think that's a pretty good summary for now. Let's move on.
Okay, thank you, Will. And let's go now to the last topic, last round. Let's talk about strategies. And 1 minute each. What do you think about the future? How do you imagine the new normality? Sean, how do you imagine the new normality in your country in Asia?
Well, I think what we will learn from this is a few things very quickly. Number one, like Will said, I think we'll learn that there are many things that we can do without. So the cost cutting is something that we've seen, because we have all learned to be really, really lean. And when this crisis ends and we emerge out of this, we'll realize that there are many things that we can do without. That is one. The other big header I would talk about is relationships. I think through this, we realized that there are relationships with members and with our staff. We've had to work very, very closely with our staff, with everybody, to try to put in place certain procedures. And many times that they have worked beyond the call of duty in putting things in place. That has forged new relationships, that has taken relationships between management and the staff to a different level. I think we will, those are here to stay. Members as well, I think we will see that we have actually deepened our relationship with members. From time to time, we receive some flack from members questioning why we take a certain decision, why we don't offer suspensions, et cetera, But even before we can get off the mark to even comment or try to do something, we find that another member comes in and does that for us and speaks for us and says that, no, they're doing a fantastic job and this is why it is. And we realize that that's because we show by what we do that we care. And without us really realizing it, the members appreciate that and they are our biggest supporters. That has given us, I guess, a rainbow of hope. That's something to strive for when we are open in full strength. That's something that we can give back, and that is a time to do that. One thing that we have learned also is that we need to put some focus on the digital and the virtual. Digital in terms of our BCP plan and how we get used to things like conference calls, video calls, webinars as part of our daily work. That may come about, but we also learn about the digital when it comes to delivering virtual solutions or streaming solutions to our members, should we not be able to service them, in the physical clubs. So that's something that we will also take away. And I think the last thing that I just want to add is, once we emerge from this, I think the industry in general will see a lot of consolidation. This is not an easy time. I guess the strongest will survive, and we will see that many will fall along the way. But I think we will emerge as an industry a lot stronger. There will be consolidation. And I think we are looking forward to seeing how that will look in hopefully the near future.
Thank you, Sean. Joe, how do you see the future? Do you have in mind some kind of a new business model that will be
Yeah,
perfect?
I don't know about the new business model, but from a tactical perspective, it's the number of people who will be totally visible, cleaning down, sanitizing every aspect of the club on a regular basis. Even getting to the point where we'll be asking the members if they have any sanitizing products, if they'd like to bring them into the center while they're training, they're welcome to do that. Because the biggest challenge could be with so many clubs doing these kind of things, that the companies that provide all those products are going to run out of those products themselves or not be able to get them to us. So I think we need to prepare for that. Going back to what I brought up in the beginning, and that's the leadership, and that's the leadership staying totally confident that we will get through this. Now, we also, as Barry was talking about, we learned a lot going through the recession back in 2008 that went through 2012. And the biggest thing that I learned about people is they all have fear. It's just like they're going to have fear with this. And I also know that people like being part of a company they believe to be strong. One of the things I did during the recession was I started a major expansion on the front most popular road in Gainesville, which we're located on, a major expansion to the club while everybody was complaining and woe is me about the recession. I know that people like being part of organizations they believe to be strong. So that's why, everybody said, don't do it. Now's not the time to do it. I said, now is the time to do it. So once this is over, we're going to start another major expansion to one of our other centers. So people know that we're coming back strong, that we're not in fear of what will happen in the future. I expect the future to be strong. For the people from the United States, there's an iconic statue of a sailor kissing a woman, huge statue of it down in Sarasota, Florida. And what it's really signifying is the end of World War II. And I look at it like once this thing ends, there will be a major surge of people wanting to get back to normal life. Do I understand there's going to be some people who are fearful of getting too close to someone else? Absolutely. I can't do anything about that. I can just do all the right things and focus on how we come back, you know, from a position of strength, not from a position of fear.
Thank you very much, Joe. Thank you. Mike, what's your strategy for the reopening? What are you thinking?
Well, I agree with Joe. I think when we do get back to business, I think economically the second quarter is going to be a real strain. I think the third quarter and the fourth quarter, we're going to bounce back and be very, very strong. And I think people want to live again. They want to come back into the clubs. But I also I think that they want to see that we're responsible and that we've taken this seriously. So I think the visibility of constant cleaning, I know that we are going to take a look at our cycling studios and our group cardio studios, and maybe have every other bike available on every other day. We're going to expand and convert a conference room and some other areas so that we can move children out of childcare and take more kids, but have less kids in each area. So we're going to do some things like that. And we also want our members to know that we are positive. We want our staff to be positive. We believe in the industry. We believe in the importance of exercise as the most powerful medicine in the world. And we think this is a time to promote exercise as medicine, bring healthcare and fitness together, to start working together on that. And we're going to be strong and positive and open up back to business.
Yeah. Thank you, Mike. Barry, what's your vision of the future?
I'm not sure what the vision is quite, if it's very clear at the moment, Fausto, but I think, you know, for me and you know, for the teams that are around me, I think now is the time where we sharpen our swords, you know, we get ready for the future, whatever that's going to be. You know, at the moment, I'm telling our teams that, you know, we need to have a ready to go attitude, so that if we're told that we can open next Wednesday or on Friday, we're ready to go. That there's not a lag in our systems or our processes or procedures or our preparation, that we are ready to go. We want to be ready to go business because, you know, we're going to have to be quite dynamic and flexible once we are able to reopen. And as our colleagues here have alluded to, you know, the new normal may be different. You know, I think the huge advantage for our industry, though, is that the curve of health being a priority for people is going to continue. And if not more, it's going to be exacerbated by this virus. I think people become more and more health conscious. And I think we have a huge role to be there for people. I think we'd have to control you know, our buildings and our properties and our procedures, because people will be more self-aware. People will probably continue the social distancing for quite some time, especially when they've had so much freedom taken away from them. You know, and you know, the human behavior will certainly change. So I think we have to be able to adapt to whatever is going to be the new normal. But my key message here from a business point of view, from communicating to our staff and communicating to our members, is that we need to be ready to go.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank you,
Fausto.
Barry. Fahad, your vision, what do you think about the new customer profile or new business model, or are you thinking about to change something in the old business models?
Yeah, let's start talking about the digital transformation and the digital fitness, because this is what we've been talking about in the last few years, and we always wonder what would members think about the digital and virtual classes. I'm amazed about the number of digital classes provided by different boutique studio, whether it's a boutique studio or a big box players, available now on Instagram. Everybody is streaming live classes, and this is really amazing point, because I'm going to come to this later. But now people were like looking forward for opening the first One Rebel here in Saudi, and then plans changed because of this challenging time. So one thing that I'm proud about our partners, the co-founders of One Rebel, is that overnight they have managed to build an online platform of Vulnerable TV, offering various workout routines to the public. So people, whether it's here in Saudi or across the globe, can take advantage for that and can stay active and stay wealthy and stay healthy. Another point about which have been mentioned by the other panelists is the members' behavior, and I think this is an important point that we have to think about, because once we reopen, I don't think the members' behavior will be the same. Not only in terms of resuming their activity, it's also about their health awareness and the hygiene awareness of the place. So we have to be ready with this, with our sanitization, disinfection, and hygiene procedures, because members' behavior will sure be focused on this, at least for 2020 and 2021. A lot of news happening right now saying that maybe this virus might come back anytime later, whether this year or next year. So we have always to be ready for this. Also, members' purchasing power and spending behavior might change, because now, as we stay home for the last 3-4 weeks, I see a lot of people talking about in the social media about they're not spending more money. So now they're rethinking their spending behavior. So this is also one thing that we have to think about. In terms of the hygiene of the clubs, we have to be also aware about the access control. The clubs that uses fingerprints, members will be very careful accessing the clubs using their fingerprints again. We have to think about the showers, the machines, as Sean recommended, the full finger gloves. I mean, I haven't bought full finger gloves in my life, but last week I ordered like a couple of them from Amazon because we're starting to build a new awareness about this kind of hygiene. So, we discussed the digital fitness and digital transformation for the last couple of years, but we haven't had like a clear vision of the future because we didn't have data in hand. But I think coming back to my point where we have now a lot of communication through Instagram and different platforms, I think we have enough data in our hands to help us build the stats and to better understand the future of online workout. And we also have our members' feedback on those classes and interaction. And I'm sure that people, they miss the physical activity inside the clubs. But with their feedback from the online content, I think we can all have better understanding of the future and the digital transformation. One last thing I want to end my point with is this is the right time to think about the future, about our strategy, how to change our business models. We are doing smart clubs because we are anticipating the future. But also the last few weeks, me and my team, we have been cracking big nuts and thinking about how to change the business models and coming up with ideas that have been stuck, in the pipeline for a lot of time. And I'm sure that we will pass this difficult time and we will have sufficient learning for us to build a better future.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Fahad. Let's go now to your questions, to the attendees' question. Gabriela, over to you. I know that it's already 5 o'clock here in Italy, but we have 5 minutes for question and answers.
Right. In that case, right, we received quite a few questions, but I will go to the ones that are more, that can be sort of have a common denominator. For example, we have received a question about renting out equipment to customers during the lockdown period, the pros and cons. And I will put that to Mike, if I may. What are the benefits or the disadvantages of renting out equipment to customers during the lockdown period?
No, we're not allowing it. We're not allowed to allow it, so we can't do it.
Okay, and any of you, any of the other panelists would be able to do that or willing to do that?
I'll just add into this. I am not doing that. I'm not quite sure how we would do that and make sure we get everything back. I know a few clubs have tried it. And I think after trying it for a little while, they were just saying it was quite challenging and they actually stopped doing it.
Basically, the disadvantages
Doing
outweigh
it.
the advantages.
I'm sorry, Gabriel.
You're saying the disadvantages outweigh the advantages.
I think once they started doing it, they realized that the disadvantages were greater. I'm not sure. There may be some people are doing it successfully. I just haven't heard from them yet.
Right. Okay. Now, another
This is
one.
Will. I'd like to just comment on that. I think that the potential advantage, even though it would be very awkward to administer, and you might not get everything back, the advantage is to show what you're trying to do for your members. And it might only be, sometimes it's only a handful of members that are impacted by something like that, but they often have the loudest mouth and tell all kinds of people about this amazing health club that had to shut down, but then they allowed them to have equipment in their own house from the club. So lots of disadvantages, but maybe a limited program would be a great way to show, to be true to your culture and your values and your commitment to your customers and your community.
Gabriella, can I add something to that? I mean, like most of the panelists, we've put out over 130 digital exercise and educational videos, and we're getting extremely positive feedback on those. We will continue to do that even after we open and to add to them on a weekly basis.
Right.
Okay, last question, Gabrielle, and then we can send the answers in the next days by mail.
Yes, I guess that's the best idea. Now, I have a question for Sean that says that I heard that from a friend living in Shanghai that the reopening, a lot of people join fitness clubs. They're presuming that. Do you have any report?
Yes. In fact, I spoke to some people from Shanghai just yesterday. They are opening again. But there are a lot of restrictions. There are certainly social distancing restrictions and restrictions on numbers of people. But like I said earlier, during before the webinar started, there's no uniform restrictions that's imposed by the government. So it's being almost left to the operators to administer. But at the same time, people are trickling in. They're starting to get used to going out again and to go back to the gyms. But they're going to the gyms and they have their masks on and they have gloves on. And that's how they're working out. So it's not every gym and every club that's open in Shanghai, but it's slowly happening. And not just Shanghai, but across China.
Okay.
I want to also thank you all the attendees, and I wait all of you next week. You can see here, next week we have in the same day, same hour, we have another webinar with other friends and owners and experts from all around the world. So thank you very much for attending, and don't forget about the great change, and we have really to do something to impact the world and to help people to adopt healthy habits. Like we should help this cat, Garfield the cat? We should help people that have the Garfield the cat mindset to stay active and healthy. And as an industry, we have this power to do it all together, operators, association, and suppliers. Thank you very, very much for attending, for the speakers. Thank you, and see you next week.
Thank you.